there. I'm going to turn YouTube on. All systems go.
Good. Hey, hello everyone. I'd like to call to order the City of Escalon Planning Commission meeting of November 14th, 2023. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we go on to a roll call.
Commission Chair Mark Sarkozy.
Here.
Commission Chair, Vice Chair Steve Castellanos, who notified us he wouldn't be here in excused absence. Commissioner Barbara Willis.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Dunbar.
Here.
Commissioner Ronnie Van Dyke.
Here.
Okay, note all cell phones, pagers, and similar devices need to be set on silent or vibrate mode or turned off unless you are an on-duty emergency responder. With that, we'll go to the consent calendar to approve the meeting minutes from the meeting on September 12th, 2023. Any comments on the notes?
I move that we approve the minutes of the September 12th meeting.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion passed 4-0. Okay, next we have a public hearing for project 23-783, a conditional use permit at 740 Escalon Avenue in Escalon, APN number 227-040-240-000. You have a staff report?
All right. Thank you, Chair. As was read, the item before you is seeking a conditional use permit. And long story short, a conditional use permit is required for a use that is not currently compliant with the underlying zone. The property is sitting on a C2 zone. It is a commercial zone along McHenry. As you know, there is a residential home on the property. The applicant, who is here tonight with us, is seeking to make some additions to that residential property. The Escalon Municipal Code calls for any addition, any extended use of a current non-conforming use to seek a conditional use permit through the Planning Commission for that use. So the applicant is seeking to construct a 408 square foot separated garage structure on the south side of the property, as well as an 870 square foot addition to the existing house. That is really the long and the short of the property. It is 740 Escalon Avenue, north of 120 on McHenry, Escalon. And staff would be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point?
This doesn't appear to have any problems. I mean, it's not close to any neighbors. I don't see anything in here that would indicate that there are anything that would run afoul of our rules or ordinances.
No, from a neighborhood compatibility standpoint, there are certainly no issues. I think one of the provisions that requires a CUP for these types of use is there's a reason it's zoned commercial, right? The city at one point has said this is where we eventually want commercial uses. I think the code speaks to if you extend non-conforming uses, if you invest money, if you do these types of things, it could it could go against the city's long-term goals in terms of what they want that for underlying uses. Now, the code also speaks to there are a few uses that can stay non-conforming in perpetuity, and residential is one of them. So from a neighborhood compatibility standpoint, no, there are no issues. It's more of a long-term goal land use issue, I think, as I read the code. But again, the code speaks to residential being one of those that in perpetuity can stay non-conforming.
The separated garage, isn't this exactly what the state is asking us, our municipalities to do with, building additional space for residences and things along those lines?
Yeah, commonly referred to as ADUs. I
Right.
think this garage is a garage. It will store vehicles. I don't think there's an intent to do an accessory dwelling unit. But yes, ADUs is a high priority on the state's goals to encourage more residential development throughout the state.
Under 17.46.040, duration of non-conforming use status, it says the authorized period of duration of the non-conforming use is 20 years from December 1st of 2004, or 20 years from the date the use became non-conforming. Do we know what that date was?
No, I think that has to do, if, I don't have the code up in front of me, but I think, does that have to do with the lifespan of buildings? There's a preceding section that deals with uses and how long they can stay non-conforming. I believe, and I could be mistaken, that code section you just referenced has to do with the duration, the expected lifespan of certain types of buildings.
So that doesn't pertain to this,
Let us verify. Can you read that section?
1746.
040D.
That B lists a few that are allowed to continue indefinitely. So D applies to projects not in B1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the residential use can continue indefinitely.
Okay, and 050 was the section I was referring to in terms of lifespan of buildings.
Is this new construction or is it already existing?
Good question. The garage is constructed in a state but not finished.
Okay.
There was some conflicts with an SSJID easement, and that is being moved. So the garage that was started construction is being moved to an area that is not have a conflict with the SSJID easement.
Okay.
But the home addition has not begun.
Don't have any questions. Anything else?
So I just want to understand what we're trying to approve here. We're approving the non-conforming use portion of the addition on the property in general, not specific to any portion of what is being constructed, anything like that. It's just an adder on the property that's currently C2.
Correct. So the item is seeking a conditional use permit. A conditional use permit is required to further any non-conforming use. So the addition to the house and the garage could be considered furthering the non-conforming use. So a conditional use permit is being sought here.
And then they'll be required to go forward with like building permits and all of that?
Correct.
Okay.
To open it to public comment?
Yeah, it's a public hearing, so yes, we'll need to open the public hearing.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public, or if there's anybody online that wants to speak on any context to this project? that, I see and hear nothing. Okay, all right, we'll close the public comment, as there were no takers, and bring it back to the commission for any final comments or motions.
The piece of property as it sits right now is very attractive, very well maintained, and to further enhance it and make it more functional makes sense. It's almost at a gateway to the community. It's visible. It makes sense to grant the conditional use permit. And Peter, I don't know how you've had 4 kids in that house all this time.
One of them's in the closet.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I agree. I think it's a great plan for the lot, and I don't have any comments on it. Anything else from commissioners?
No.
And I'll make a motion, the planning commission determines the approval is warranted for this application. The findings, we make the findings as required per section 17.56.030 findings for use permits. We find the project CEQA Class 1 categorical exemption, 15301E2 existing facilities, and a CEQA Class 3 categorical exemption under section 15303E accessory structures including garages, and authorize staff to file the notice of exemption and I don't see that we haven't heard anything about any modification of conditions, so consider the approval of the conditional use permit application with the conditions of approval as proposed.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
All those against? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Diana.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
All right. So next, we will go on to administrative matters, our 2024 goal discussions.
Okay. 1 second while I pull something up here. So the item before us here now is really just a discussion, and it's something that staff has come up with to, sort of focus and align our priorities and our work product. I had the opportunity coming new into this position to meet with each one of you and have a sense for some of the things that you are hoping to accomplish individually. I think as a body, we can look and see if there are things in the community that are either going really well and we want to, if further, we want to, grow upon, or if there are things that, really are areas for improvement and we would like to address. So I wanted to sort of initiate this conversation. An email was sent out with some prompts, and we can go through those. But I wanted to initiate this conversation to get us thinking as a body, as an appointed body in this case, with the purview of planning, community development, maybe even economic development a little bit under our umbrella, to see what we want to focus on, accomplish, prioritize in the next year. I think this is a good tool. I think it shares with the public what we're focusing on. And that can have good or bad, right? And there can be stones thrown about, well, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you doing that? But I think that's a good feedback loop for us anyway. And, you know, if people in the community are aware of what we're focusing on, that is then, it creates a feedback loop for them to say, well, what about this and what about that? And then we can, you know, work that into our work plan, right? Our efforts over the next year. Limited staff here, limited budget. So I think it behooves us, it makes sense for us to kind of focus our efforts and not just, you know, spin our wheels in some things, but really, you know, kind of focus on certain things that we're trying to accomplish. So long lead in, really this is about hearing from you, not from us, on, you know, what's important and what you see in the community.
I think this is a great topic to bring to the commission. I didn't print out that email. Could you put it up for our prompts?
So here, I will.
I'm sharing.
Okay, yeah. But I'll share with everyone. So, you know, this is to lead into. We're not going to go straight, what are your goals? If you have some of those, fantastic, we'll take those. But really to start the conversation. So what are the most pressing issues facing the city of Escalon right now? What are the largest opportunities? You know, you could see that as challenges or areas for improvement. What does the city do well, and what would you like to see continued or enhanced? And then what are areas for opportunity? Okay, so this is areas for improvement. The first is, you know, what are we not capitalizing on enough? What are opportunities missed? So most pressing issues, things that we could be doing to further the great qualities, and then opportunities for improvement.
It's like we're full of ideas.
Well,
And
I actually did write some things down.
no one wants to go first.
First off, I appreciate that this was brought up. I think this is important, and I think that this is something, this actually has the opportunity to be some of the fun stuff that we do. And, but I think our challenges are very similar to the challenges throughout the state. I mean, in affordable housing, my son is nowhere near being able to buy a house in Escalon or Stockton or anywhere else in California. So we need to address programs like that. And I don't know what staff has done, I'm sure there's something, to look at programs that help people with down payments. I know there's several initials out there, but there's several state programs that help with down payments and with closing cost. But if you look at the median price in our area, I believe it's $570,000 is what I saw today when I looked it up. So, you know, you're looking at Cal HFA, by the way. It's still out of reach for a lot of people. So I don't know, have we looked at groups such as perhaps self-help enterprises, which they've got programs in 15 different cities to help people build their own houses. They're very aware of making sure the houses fit into the community. They're small houses, but they're nice houses. I don't know anybody there. I've read some names of people who work there, but I don't know them. I would hope that we've looked into something like that or self-help itself. And it occurs to me that just like our senior housing project that we are considering, which I think is, what I've seen of it is wonderful, I think that we ought to be looking for projects that help young buyers, young families locate in our community. Just like if you could have a large group of triplexes and quads to facilitate senior citizens, it would be nice to have an area set aside for young families where all the kids can play together. They're going to grow up going to school together anyway. Let them get to know each other. So that is my foremost concern in terms of housing and one of the most pressing issues. But as I said, it's just like it is in Ripon and Oakdale and every other city throughout this state. I also have some concerns about lack of walkability, and then I can talk about that later on, but I just thought I would bring that one up first to see if we are doing something to encourage low-cost housing or programs that can get people into houses.
So perhaps for this discussion today, kind of the initial discussions on perhaps getting closer to 2024 goals, we won't get into as much what staff has done or what, past councils have done or past planning commissions have done on any one topic. Some of these topics will be divisive and people won't see them all the same way, nor have past councils or past commissions seen certain topics the same way. So I think, this is really trying to pull out ideas, have a bit of a dialogue in terms of what is important to the commission as a body, and then depending on what transpires here in the terms of the discussion, staff can bring, back some framework for next steps, how we proceed with any sort of 2024 goals, if that's what we want to do. So not to avoid the question, but I think we'll make it about what is important to the commission at this time and not what's been done in the past.
That's important to me.
We have it written down. Affordable
Okay.
housing, projects not only for seniors, but also for young buyers, down payment assistance.
Yes.
I think one thing I'd like to bring up is that getting out to the community what the city is doing. We have social media, Escalon residents page, other pages similar that talk about what someone perceives as being done or not being done. Do we have plans to have some kind of, guided outreach to the community saying, we saw that pothole over there, it's on, it's on the schedule, or, we've had, just responding to some of these either scary or not scary, just the ideas that are coming from assumptions and kind of playing cleanup, but also maybe getting ahead of it and communicating early to kind of head off some of that negativity. I think it would be a benefit. Our culture and our society is transitioning to this. If it's on the internet, it's true.
Two thoughts along those lines. We had a city manager years ago who would write a weekly column or maybe a monthly column in the paper. And he had a wonderful way of telling the community what he was doing, what he was thinking, what the city was doing, what they were thinking, and so keeping them informed. This was before real social media. But then also, I remember seeing the chief of police over here. He was disturbed by the fact that stuff that was posted on social media was not accurate. So two reasons there to tell people what's going on and put the lie to what some people are putting out there.
Yeah, I'm with you in that information is important, and the lack of information, people will make up their own stories, right? And that can be a disservice to everyone in the community if it goes far enough. So if we went down this path, we'd have to think through kind of what that looks like, and there's pitfalls, and I think this is what you're referring to. There's pitfalls to any level of communication, and then I would also think about how do we know what to respond to or what to get out in front of. How does the information come in to the city to get out? But yeah, I like the idea of getting information out there. I am surprised in every community, not just this one, talking with some, what people know and what people don't know.
There's already a newsletter that could be, that could become 2 pages, you know, in addition to what's on it. Well, we'll fill the potholes on this street or these streets in this month or this week, or, you know, these are our plans, and,
Yeah. That's a good point. I think yours is timeliness, kind of like the right
Yeah.
now, right?
I mean, within reason,
Yeah.
you've got to be cautious and cognizant of what you're putting out there, because things could change on a dime in regards to some, but for the most part, I mean, looking into things, or, you know, it's nice, like our city council members, they are out hunting things down and they're putting things out there occasionally. And it might, you know, it might flip. It might be better if it was presented from the city than from, you know, someone attempting, because you can have a thought that this idea is really good and you're very protective of it, and then it bites you. So I think that protection also would help kind of guide the information out. I just think it's important. I don't know a lot of the things that are happening, and I'm here. So it's one of those things that, you know, information is
Yeah.
important. It's communication.
Yeah. Trying to think through how to go about that.
as far as what do we do well, and, you know, there was a planning commissioner who did not like the fact that we granted variances, you know, but I think it's important to have options and not be too dictatorial toward the people. You know, let them come in and try to get what they want, and maybe we can shoot them down, but maybe we can work it out to approve it with some changes. It's troublesome when they go ahead and do what they want without seeking a permit or permission, but still, the fact that we can make allowances for certain things, I think that's good, you know. Be flexible.
It comes to my mind, and I don't know, sort of under the planning commission, planning at least. Does the city have like an emergency plan in case of train derailment or things like that? Just one example.
Actually, don't know that.
I think it's been worked on in the past. I don't remember what state it's in.
Every city's been required to have something along those lines. Like an emergency evacuation plan. What if 120 is closed? How do we get out? Yeah. Fairly obvious, but. I would like to see us pay more attention to walkability in our community. We've allowed a lot of walled neighborhoods to be built. I don't mind having walled neighborhoods as long as there's a gate in them, so that you don't have to go all the way up to McHenry, which is, or all the way out to Santa Fe, or all the way out to whatever, to get out of the neighborhood and walk around the block. I think that we need to do that. I do walk around the city a lot. My favorite spots are actually on the edges where there's dirt. So I think we need to preserve some of that, because some of us don't like walking on pavement. And we need to make our city more walkable. It's a nice community. There's not a neighborhood here that I'm afraid to go into. And so we ought to take advantage of that and make it more walkable and highlight that. At least that's my way of thinking. Get the word out.
And you're leaning more towards natural, recreational type.
Recreation, yeah, I walk for my health. And I walk down toward the almond orchard down there, and then swing all the way around, walk into the almond orchards up on the other side on the edge, and then walk into the trees. I'm not messing with anybody's trees, not picking up any nuts. But I am walking along the irrigation roads right away, and you know, along the backs of the school, that sort of thing, and over to the church and around. But I also walk through the neighborhoods, and they're nice, they're pleasant, but pleasant neighborhoods to walk through, and I feel relatively safe. But we don't have provisions for that, and I'd like to see sort of that kind of thing built into some of our requirements when people are building and when they're doing streets. And those are on bicycles. Walkers can share the road with bicycles. Bicycles can share the sidewalks with walkers, et cetera. Perhaps that's an opportunity to have a joint session with the Parks Commission or something along those lines, because it's not just about parks. A big thing is making sure there are no barriers. And if you do have a wall, because some people like living in a walled neighborhood, put a gate in it. It'll also be helpful for getting out of that neighborhood if you needed to.
In years past, when we've put together housing elements or other elements of the general plan, it seems like we've had more of a developmental hand in them. And this time it seems like it's being done for us and we're being told about it. And that seems weird. We would have the school superintendent here, we would have different people from the community giving us talks about the school attendance, the trends they're seeing in student body sizes, and you know, the input would be given to us so that we could help formulate whether there was a housing element or another part of the general plan. This time it just seems like we don't have a hand in it. And I don't know if that's this particular consultant or maybe the thinking of the staff. So that kind of goes, on the one hand, I feel like we're a reactive body, and yet when you read about planning commissions, it says we're a proactive body. I don't always see that part of it. But yeah, lately with the housing element, it's been concerning to me that we're being told what's in it, and in the past, we've had more of an active role in that.
Yeah, valid point. I think more than a thought of staff or the consultant, it is a matter of timing. Very tight timeline. Now that doesn't mean, you know, the only path is to sort of get it through quickly. Point very well taken. Planning Commission should be, you know, really leading and planning for the community. Housing element's a big element of that, a big component of that. So point well taken. I think this is really a matter of timing, a bit of a late start, and just a tight timeline. And there's some potentially pretty heavy consequences that come along with a tight time, with missing the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And so without other input such as yours, I think the approach has been, let's try to hit the timeline.
I think something we need to improve on is, and I almost hate to bring it up, but the RV storage and the side yards, just what happened a couple commissions ago. I think that that ordinance, I mean, I don't know how to fix it, but I think it needs to be looked at again. I think the way things are reported, it's just, everything about it just seems difficult. It's not fair to neighbors. It's not fair to the property owner. Fair to the person who's reporting it. And I totally understand both sides. It'd be good if how we could get it. Maybe there's something we can do to help.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Common practice, you know, when you have a code that is in conflict with reality for whatever reason, to reassess it and, you know, see if there's a way to jive the two.
What we've done, like every community in the state, at least in the valley, we've allowed developers to build houses on tiny lots. And if we want to be a community that welcomes RV storage, and there's no reason we shouldn't be, then we should make it very plain, you can store an RV on this size lot, but if you're buying a house in Escalon, excuse me, my cough drop is moving. If you're buying a house in Escalon with the thought that you're going to store an RV there, make sure you're getting the appropriately sized lot. And we should have those opportunities for people. We are a rural community. We should have that. But when you're approving houses on, what are our lots? 6,000 square feet? There's not really much room for a 50-foot or 38-foot RV without encroaching on somebody's sunlight or something. You asked for some business type issues, planning, economic development. I looked it up today, and I'm sure other people are very aware of this. I don't want to sound like I just discovered something, but it's new to me. I did not know that Escalon is, according to Google, exactly halfway between San Francisco and Yosemite. 177 miles. And the halfway point would be right about mid-town on 120. So, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get the big ticket items to replace our lost sales tax. But if we had curated shopping experiences, things like gourmet Escalon, fresh finds, halfway there, halfway home type shopping opportunities, I think that's the kind of thing that might entice people to pull off the side of the road. I mean, if, you know, our little shopping center down here, and I'm not complaining because I do business there. I love DeBonni's Pizza, and it's great pizza. But that little shopping center is not the most enticing shopping center in the world. So if we did more to make it look better, you know, you're halfway from San Francisco, yet this is the best pizza you're going to find between here and there. So that's something I was thinking about. I think smaller communities do I think that's the term they're using, curated shopping experience. That's my big idea.
Good.
One thing that the city does well, and I think we hear it time and time again from people that bring their plans and have worked with the city staff, is how helpful the city staff is throughout the process. Do that over and over again, so hats off to the staff.
That's good, because you don't hear that a lot.
We'll let the days of the week fight another battle, right?
Under the heading of what does the city do well, apparently we hire law enforcement officers and train them well. And then they move on to other communities. And I wonder, is it legal to have a stipulation that you have to stay here a certain length of time before you leave? The hiring costs, the training costs, they take away from our budget. That leaves other city departments short and the police department short. And it's not exactly a planning issue, but it's peripheral to it, to planning, in that it hurts the budget, the city budget. I'd like to improve the budget.
Is the building that's by the park on Main Street, is that city-owned? I thought it was, but I'm not certain.
Which building?
On the corner across from the bank, the old bank building.
Oh, it's privately owned.
It's privately owned, okay.
A few years ago, I was down in, well, shoot, where's the Rose Parade?
Pasadena.
Yeah. We were driving down Colorado Avenue, and there were several people, maybe half a dozen, they were walking around with clipboards. They're looking out with clipboards, and I asked about it, somebody who lived there, and apparently it was a combination of like planning commissioners, city council members, and residents, and they were writing, you know, about building facades, about business placement, about, you know, we need a stoplight here, we need to, you know, and I thought that'd be a good idea to, you know, we've got a lot of absentee landlords on Main Street, we need business, and even on 120 to capture the traffic going through town. What if we had a group that looked around and made lists of things, and maybe that list could be prioritized, and like what we're doing here. I mean, we're the planning commission looking at priorities and opportunities for improvement, but other entities may have those, you know, can come up with opportunities as well, so. Just a thought.
I like that.
I would like to see it a little, like, getting back to the walkability. We've got a crossing at First on McHenry. Then you don't have another stop sign until you get back to the river. Head south. I don't necessarily need a stop sign, but if you wanted to walk down Brennan, or down Alray to Brennan, you've got to take your chances, which is fine. You can do that. Traffic's not heavy. Or you can go ahead and, you know, you got to walk up to First. I did have an officer, a young officer, tell me that I was crossing outside of a crosswalk. I found out later that if there's not a crosswalk within 500 feet, you don't have to. You can go ahead and cross. My lawyer daughter was with me, but she didn't know that was true, so she failed me on that one. So I think we need to have, as we develop the neighborhoods on the east side of McHenry, I mean, maybe the railroad doesn't want them over there walking along those, you know, that area, but that is, you know, that is an area we could, you know, we can walk in. Circle the city, you have to do that.
We did have a workshop several years ago. A guy came in and talked about walkable communities, and one of the things I learned is that, you know, with the access to the library facing the parking lot and not the street, it's not pedestrian oriented, it's automobile oriented.
Right.
And so you have to take that into consideration to have a true walkable community, make your businesses have the entrances on the streets or the sidewalks and not off the parking. I've got some handouts that I could give them to you.
I actually,
You can lobby for.
I can lobby for walkability.
Yeah, there we go.
It's an issue for me. I like walking.
And along the lines of, you know, walkability, I'd like to see, you know, if there's a trail or something, something along the lines of a park course, you know, with
Yeah.
a little exercise, I mean, just pull-ups or, you know, just little machines, not even machines, they're usually just made out of wood and bars, they're pretty simple. They're spaced every half mile or whatever, just do a circuit.
But as our housing element is developed, and as they look at the properties that are available for development, that's something that should be built into it so that we don't eradicate the trails that people are using. If you take an almond orchard out and put houses in there, people might still want to walk, you know, make room for people to walk. And if you've got walls all around it, there's no room to walk. we giving you what you want, what you
Yes,
need?
absolutely. I was
I
just
mean, 'cause
gonna-
I'm beginning to wonder if we're just, if you're looking at this going, this was a waste of time or
No,
something. but-
absolutely not.
Why
This
did
is
I
great.
ask?
Uh-huh.
Diana and I are writing feverishly. I was going to, as I said, I kind of compiled the notes that I took from each one of our meetings. Some of the things that were brought up in those meetings, community aesthetics, whether it's code enforcement or, requirement of businesses to have a certain standard. We talked about 120 and the uses on it, so that was brought up today. Active transportation, what I call active transportation, kind of your biking, walking, that was brought up. The other one that maybe wasn't brought up as much, although a little bit, economic development downtown, certainly on 120 McHenry. So those were kind of some of the themes that came out of our discussions. And, you can see even from that list, right, staff could, spend a lot of time going down, a number of these rabbit holes. And so it's good to hear kind of as a body, and not just individually, right, but now as a body, kind of, okay, where do we want to focus our intention or our attention? What is most important? And so we can continue to have these conversations. You kind of coalesce around a couple ideas, and we can carry that forward. Now, another thing I do want to mention is, this is discussion purposes. The city council is expected to take on kind of a strategic planning effort, and it'll touch on things like budget and, kind of where we're going as a community. Of course, I think we would want, whatever we do here to jive with that. And, no part of me is trying to get out in front of that, but I wanted to stimulate the conversation so that when that effort transpires, we can dovetail nicely into those conversations.
How granular do you want to get?
So the way I think about it in my mind is, Diana and I, we're the planning staff right now. We are, of course, going to have our day-to-day sort of operational type work. And, it takes up 60, 70, 80% of our time, whatever it does. The remaining 40 to 20% of our time, where do we spend that? What are we focusing on? So granular to me, and I'm a planner by nature, is, okay, what plans in here? Is it looking at ordinances? Is it looking at code to clean up some of our codes? Is it, working on a communications plan? Is it working on a 120 corridor plan to really ensure that any new development on 120 is what we want it to be, right? And not sort of this lowest common denominator development. That's the granularity that is in my mind, where we spend our time, what plans we can put in place to help further the improvement of this community.
I think the 120 corridor is a wonderful place for you to put your efforts. I mean, we've got, one of our larger employers has a building that fronts 120. It's a large wall. And I'm not trying to tell him what to do or anything along those lines, but it would be nice if it were painted in a way that maybe made the city look nice, rather than just a long metal wall. And if there are things to do, because we do see, you know how much traffic we see going to Yosemite every year, every summer. That is, to welcome those people would seem to me to be an opportunity to recoup some of our lost sales tax revenue from the larger generators. I know it would be better to get a bigger generator back, but
Only play the hand you're dealt. Good.
I probably don't need to say anything, but the council, if you're on the planning commission, that, have ethics to abide by and things like that. And you also know that sometimes our decisions are tossed aside by the city council, but I don't think we can afford to not be true to ourselves and true to our community in our decision-making. We have to be ethical, and even if we get overturned, I mean, it's a body of people deciding that the one body of people didn't make the right decision or the best decision or something, but we still need to be true to what we believe as far as planning commission and what's good for the community, and I hope we are. So a goal maybe for, always, not just next year, but just to be true to who we are and what we need for the community. And we had a community development director years ago, and when he was here, we put in where Burger King and Taco Bell and all that is. There are people to this day who complain about that, and you can't please everybody. And there are times when I think of going to, like the person who built Bel Mer in Oakdale, the retirement home, can't you build something in Escalon? Well, we talked to Bethany, but can you, I don't know as far as economic development, how much time gets devoted to that. And if we had somebody who just could go out and recruit and, bring things in.
I don't get too many phone calls from folks that know I'm on the planning commission, but I have had a few. And one of them was a longtime resident, lifetime resident, whose opinions I greatly value. And, but he was concerned that we make good use of 120, but especially that lot that's across from Orlando's and Hula's. So that kind of thing. So people are paying attention, and so I think that's a concern in the community. I think that is, if that is where you're going to put that 20% of your time, I think that will be well spent. But I think it has to be comprehensive. I think it has to be, how we look, how we present ourselves to travelers, and in our own community.
Agree, that's good. Perfect. This was, I don't want to cut it off any too short. This, I think, was a very fruitful conversation, and it doesn't have to end here, obviously. As you go now about your days and talk to people and think about things maybe slightly differently, we will continue this conversation, either through the December meeting or into the future. We do not yet know the timing of the City Council and their strategic planning efforts. But I think it is good for us to beginning to think about what, in the planning realm, we want to accomplish. So we will continue the conversations. Thank you for your input. It was exactly what we were looking for. And we'll keep going.
Great. Okay, at this time, we can open it up to matters presented from the audience, either present or online. You're on the hot seat.
You're only audience member, you have to say something.
Okay, with nothing being presented, we'll move on to staff communications.
Okay, I do have several things, kind of go through them relatively quickly. It was referenced, the project applicant for what we're referring to as 2304 Jackson Avenue. It's a proposed 17-unit, 2-story apartment complex on top of 2 commercial suites that will face 120. They did have a community meeting where a few members of the community came out to see what was being proposed there. This was something that staff encouraged them to do to really get the word out about their project. We are in review of that application currently. No timeline yet for the Planning Commission at this stage. So FYI, they said in the meeting they may consider another community meeting and try to get the word out in a little bit more comprehensive fashion. FYI. The housing element was also brought up. The public review draft, 30-day public review draft is expected to hit the streets maybe tomorrow. So we will notify you when that does, obviously. We'll send you a link. Can review the document at that time. Then it'll go to HCD after that for their review, and then it'll go through our process, right, the Planning Commission, for a recommendation onto the City Council and then approval. Couple things staff is currently working on. We're working on a traffic calming program. And really what this is we get quite frequently, sometimes, periodically at least, calls for stop signs, speed bumps, those types of things, right? There's either too much traffic or there's an issue of speeding, basically. And so what we want to create in this program is a process for the public, the residents, to be able to submit a project in a more formal fashion, for it to go through a thorough review through all the, parties, public safety for sure, public works, planning, of course, our consultant engineer, to be really evaluated for what the best option is to calm traffic, to slow traffic, to, divert traffic if there's too much traffic. This plan will outline that process. This plan will also outline the available strategies, the tools that cities have at their purview, that, what tool we will use to help the issue. What we also want to do, and we're verifying this with SJCOG, is we get Measure K funds for certain things. What we are contemplating is setting aside, and this is very early in its, formation of an idea. We've got to, run it through Planning Commission, probably City Council for approval, budget, all that. But, perhaps setting aside some funds from the Measure K monies to actually implement some of the projects that are recommended. So all of that will be outlined in this program that we are drafting. It's actually being reviewed right now by our public safety partners. Then we'll, kind of wrap that up here in the coming months, let's say, and then make that available if that's what we as a city, council, commission, staff choose to do. But that's the intent of the plan, and that's what we're trying to accomplish with that plan/program. We're also working on, hopefully, some parking solutions in the First Street area. We have what in my mind is a fantastic development down there, some new uses, not only on kind of, the almost industrial business side, but in terms of the commercial side as well, some new uses there. And it's highlighted, I think, some of the parking concerns. First Street is, it's tight in there. There's not a lot of parking. So we're looking at some more holistic parking solutions in that area, looking at Blix and Weiss and Center and perhaps different ways to use those streets to produce more parking in that area. But we're looking at all options. So this is something that was brought about by, some, I think, complaints in the area and some, frustration with parking issues. So we decided to kind of take a comprehensive look at that. And I think we're getting close to some potential solutions, and we'll be sharing those with the commission and council and the public here soon, hopefully. Let you know that the Main Street Park project is out to bid. We will have a bid opening, I think it's December 10th, for that improvement project. That's a walking trail. It's new sidewalk on the park side of the park, some additional parking, and some other amenities in the park as well, some recreational amenities that we have, I think, had the ability to add at really the 11th and a half hour in the design process. So hopefully those will be exciting amenities for the community. So again, bid opening December 10th. We expect the process to play out, and then maybe weather dependent, get into construction February, maybe March. They don't expect it to be too long of a construction window. I definitely think it would be complete, although I hate to say things like that, but be complete sometime in 2024. And then just a couple of other applications we're working on. We do have a project in the Liberty Business Park. It's an industrial project that is under application. We have reviewed the first draft and we've had some comments that they are responding to currently. We're working with another project, another multifamily single story for seniors project just on the other side of McDonald's that is being proposed. They're an app or they're pre-app?
They applied.
They applied. So we are reviewing that application. And then there's another one, which we refer to as Murphy Ranch, but it's east of Brennan, south of 120 there. It's a traditional single-family residential development. They are early stages. They're doing some of their biological, traffic, those types of things for the EIR. It is a specific plan area. If they move forward, you know, at this pace, and if it's approved, they may be under construction in 2025. Those, just wanted to kind of highlight some of the proposed development projects that is, you know, kind of in the city right now, pending.
What's the status of the corner lot there on McHenry and First, the southeast corner?
Yeah,
There's a mini mart coming in, but he doesn't have that property there on the corner.
yeah.
Does anybody have plans for it, or is it?
No, at this time, I mean, I believe there's 3 parcels. As you mentioned, there was an approved mini mart on one of those. We have not seen building plans for that use yet. The other 2 parcels, we have not seen any sort of development application or even talked to anyone really about a development application on those parcels.
Single-story senior complex between McDonald's and Les Schwab?
No,
The residential.
behind McDonald's, I guess.
Behind McDonald's on Country.
Yeah, further east of McDonald's.
Yeah, okay.
Will it run all the way back to Les Schwab?
Between the block wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's on Countrywood. It'd be on Countrywood, behind the McDonald's, east of the McDonald's.
How far south would it extend?
It ends where the if you're looking at
McDonald's
McDonald's on
property is?
McHenry,
So
it
it's
doesn't go
relatively
past
small.
the
Okay.
McDonald's
All
lot, yeah.
17 single-story units.
17 on that little lot?
Tiny lot,
That would be like a duplex or something.
single story.
Look at that again.
And just adding to that note, those projects that are pending, someone has applied but not yet come to you, we do scan in those applications and plans and put them up on our website. They're on the planning page, applications under review. So you as a commission or the public's welcome to go on and see what's proposed.
Thank you. All right, any commissioner communications? Sure, you're in.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Commissioner Willis?
No, but what you just said about the applications being online for what's being proposed, it seems like if people went there instead of just Facebook, you know, Escalon residents, then they could educate themselves as far as what status these things are in. And
Figure out how to do that.
oh,
Shouldn't be that hard.
oh,
When you figure out how to make people do that.
oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think I followed a link on a Facebook post at one point to see a couple of those applications over there, but the algorithm is off because I don't see it. I have to go search the city's Facebook.
We'll send you the link.
My only thought was that if you're going to be having workshops on traffic calming and stuff like that, if it's appropriate for commissioners or the public to attend, I'd like to know when that's happening, because if we're going to be, if there's a better way to do it than the ways that I'm aware of, roundabouts, and speed bumps and stuff like that, I'd like to know some, you have the pregnant sidewalks and you have all that stuff. I don't know how effective that is, but if it is, it would be interesting to know.
Well, far be it from me to, it's 30 years that I've been on the commission, and I have handouts from previous workshops on the most effective speed traffic calming devices and what's expensive, what's not, what's effective, what's not, and, but you know all this. So.
It's always good to, no one can know everything, so it's good to get input.
And things can change, yeah.
Exactly.
It changes.
Yes, my only comment would be with the park project, at the, I'll say the south side of the park, because my understanding is the sidewalk's going to go all the way down to St. John.
Correct.
So you've got that dirt lot at the end of the park. That's private property, I'm assuming, that's used a lot for parking? That allowed to continue?
As far as I know, it is all railroad right away. The park area and the dirt lot is all railroad right away. I think the story is that that's kind of the staging area for when, is it UP? When the Union Pacific needs to use the lot, right? So that's kind of their staging. This is what I understand, so that's why that has not been sort of developed in terms of a park. But it is all railroad right away, not privately owned.
So it has a roll curb going right there so that they can still get up there and park?
There's been some discussion about that, but no, it is not a rolled curb.
Oh, it's hard, okay.
And then what?
We've got, so to that point, there have been a couple workshops, as I understand, before my time, but as I understand for this project, and then staff has gone out recently to a couple of the businesses out there, the more prominent businesses out there who maybe utilize the land, and have talked with them directly.
That was my next question as we get to St. John, because the sidewalk goes down there. That's used as parking area too. The sidewalk there, that might take away some of their parking. For good or for bad. That's the intent. Okay. That being said, it is 7:37, and we will adjourn for tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Good job.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Why was that guy here?
Oh, I know.
Do we know him?
It's the NSF, not UP. Put that on the record. Thank you. You're right.
Yeah, the spur line right here is the UP.
Yeah, yes.
I was trying to think where it crossed, I'm thinking, okay.